What it do, KTTV? This is KT, and I'm coming at you live with another episode of the Daily K Podcast. And today, we are back. Look, we've been on for a break. You ain't even know that today, Ms. Jones. But we are back today with our first episode of Wellness Wednesday. And for today, I have an awesome guest, mental health professional, mental health and relationship podcaster, Miss Stephanie Jones, a.k.a. Lilac Calandra. How you doing today, Ms. Jones?
Hey now. I'm so excited to be here. And, this is like your welcome back podcast. I feel honored.
But look,
Honored.
surprise. Now you know.
Yes,
Hey, so
definitely.
but before we get into things, before we even get into even the other things, you got to talk to me about this name. So we got Stephanie Jones, the name, but we got the Lilac Calandra. Talk to me
Right.
about how that difference goes.
Absolutely. So Stephanie Jones is my government name.
You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
All right. But Lilac Calandra is I wouldn't call it a stage name, but it's just like my pseudonym, my alias,
Mhm.
for when I do, anything with like broadcasting or anything on a different platform. And it's a combination of my favorite color, which is lilac. I'm a purple queen, I promise. And my middle name, which is Calandra. So it's unique. I've never heard anybody use it. And I just started referring to myself as that, and it just stuck. So
Just stuck.
I am both. Yes.
I can dig it. I can dig it. Look,
Hey,
expression, right?
come on now.
Hey, you. So, before we do jump into all the good stuff we got going and talking about this narcissism today, which is may get a little rough. How have you been doing throughout this pandemic and staying safe out here?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like the last year and some change is almost a blur,
Yes.
because it's like my brain is still trying to catch up and try to normalize. Like, did we just go through this experience? Like, is this something that actually really happened? And when I say yes, it did, then I start having like this range of emotions like, oh my gosh, how many things were lost, how many things changed and
Mhm.
shifted, but it wasn't all bad. So I'm doing good, because it helps me to see that the pandemic wasn't all bad.
Yeah.
Rest in peace to all the people who lost their lives. But there's a lot of things that I was able to accomplish. There was a pause I was able to get that I
Mhm.
really didn't have when the world was like just moving and going. So just looking at it like that, it helps me to kind of balance things out that we were in a traumatic time. We're still there. I don't think we're out of the pandemic,
Mhm.
but I also gained a lot of clarity, a lot of peace, a lot of understanding, a lot of things that I could accomplish with the time that we had to just be still.
Man, and when I'm telling you, even during the beginning, as I got so busy just talking to different people, a friend of mine said, "Look, if you don't take this time to be still and really just think about your next move and be calculated, then you kind of wasting a few moments, you know." And so,
Wasted.
man, not to discount everything, but the people who were on the other side, whew, we tried to push through, and we are here. You're right, though.
Thank God, because there's a
Hey,
lot who are not here to tell the story. They
yeah,
didn't make it, they didn't survive. So we're here, and I'm like, we got to maximize our time,
yeah,
because we're still here.
I
So
can dig it.
just taking a deep breath, like, ooh,
Look, so I begin this Wellness Wednesday series because I wanted to talk about some of the tough conversations in our community, right? And so when you think about narcissism, you just think about the importance of having healthy relationships. We just got through being locked down with people for 6 to 8 months. So if you ain't know them before, right? So,
you know them now. Hey.
so
Woo.
we thinking about just those things, personal relationships with my friends. So before we even get into the clinical, and you may have the clinical, but before we get into whatever I wrote down with my notes, can you tell us what is narcissism?
Yeah. So, okay. So before we even hit, anything textbook or something being clinical, I mean, it's an extreme case of selfishness. Like at the base value, it's an extreme case of that selfishness where you have tunnel vision and you really can only see yourself. You only think about yourself when you're acting out, when you're doing anything, when you're behaving in any way. You don't take into consideration anyone else's feelings, how it will affect anyone. You can really only focus and think about yourself. And it really doesn't allow you to have that love for other people. You'll find yourself really struggling to connect in a real way. There's a lot of manipulation that comes into that narcissism. Um, and just a struggle to see the importance of thinking of anyone else. That's at the very base of it. Like if we simplify this thing like a fraction,
Yeah.
at the base of it is that just intense selfishness, that intense level of disconnection from everyone's emotions and feeling what they're feeling
Mm-hmm.
and saying that, okay, if I do this, someone else will be affected in this way. All
Yeah.
that's wiped off the table. All we can see is ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
All we think about is ourselves. And that's just how I would define it, like in my own way, without opening up any book or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, you basically put it into words. So the inflated sense of their own importance, the deep need for the excessive attention and admiration. But the one part they hit on that got me was, but behind this mask of extreme confidence lies a fragile self-esteem that's vulnerable to the slightest criticism. And so you think about those pieces and when that argument gets heated and how that turns into abuse or that turns into murder or all those pieces because man that's a big piece of it, you know.
It's huge. It's huge. I mean, because they present this big, tough exterior, but they're softies on the
Yeah,
inside.
yeah,
You say boo to them in a
yeah.
wrong way. They're weeping and crying because of that brokenness that's inside. So I hear you completely.
So now with your work that you're doing, with the student services manager, and so uh like we talked beforehand, it's not necessarily the academics, right? But sometimes it is the pressure that goes along with life that interrupts that. And so do you see that when you're working with young people these days?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are very bright and intelligent students,
Yeah.
like can perform. The job I work in, they have like different tracks. So someone will be doing IT or like project management or like business investments. So where I work with the students who do business investments. So they're all smart. They know how to do math. They know how to, a lot of them are entrepreneurs. They know how to do this stuff. But it is the problem that I have with my boyfriend or girlfriend, the issues I have with my parents. It is, oh, that's my sister.
Hey.
It's the issues that we have just with our families, with money. We see financial issues
Mhm.
that will cause your emotions to be all over the place in a way that the things you knew academically gone right out of your
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
And that's what I see in adults, in everyone. We let life knock us off the road
Yeah.
in any capacity.
Yes. So as an educator, I try to like really break down pieces. And so in talking about narcissism and just being able to have the conversation, I had to learn like so much, like and just reading up on it. I'm listening to videos and man, just understanding it's like classifications to it, right? And so then you're thinking about, like we said, you're adaptive, you're maladaptive. So the adaptive almost being in a positive sense. With that being said, and how we are thinking that narcissism is so negative, how have you seen it used in that positive light, or how can it be positive?
I mean, I even like that you brought this up. I mean, we only, like you said, we only hear about narcissism from a negative viewpoint. Like,
Mhm.
it's just negative. It's like, okay, you're a narcissist, and no, but there are good components of narcissism that we really don't focus on. So, like, it's really good to have high self confidence.
Yeah.
That's great. That high self esteem, awesome. That high self reliance, you can rely on yourself, great. Those are things we want. And the ability to celebrate yourself, right? So we know narcissists, they like to talk about themselves. That's not necessarily a bad quality,
Mhm.
because sometimes we wait for other people to celebrate us or we don't feel celebrated. So when we can celebrate ourselves, awesome. But like we talked about before, when it pushes past that level
Mhm.
of too much, when it tips the scales,
Yeah.
that's when it starts getting into that maladaptive, and we have to look
Yeah.
out for it. Everything
Yeah.
is good in moderation. So
Mhm.
we should have these qualities.
Yeah. And I was reading again. It says Freud himself maintained that narcissism could be positive, especially in early child development. And so immediately I started thinking about some of the kids I work with at school and be like, aha, that's it. So following this premise, in order to help that child establish healthier personality, parents benefit by finding that balance But like you said, you got to find that balance between providing too much admiration or too little positive attention, which is hard.
It is. It's really difficult because you like, all right, so when we're raising kids, we want them. So if that's in family, that's in schools,
Mm-hmm.
we want them to have that positive and high self-esteem. But we can notice when a child is doing too much, like, all right, so we're not talking about phones in class. So let's talk about at home. We see kids taking selfies of themselves all the time. Like that's the real pandemic, the
Yeah,
selfies. That
yeah,
forget about coronavirus and
yeah.
COVID-19. That's the real pandemic because they
Yeah.
do it everywhere, in the grocery store, in the doctor's office. Everyone's just snapping selfies. And I'm just looking like, well,
Mm-hmm.
they're crossing the street taking selfies. That's when it starts floating too much into I'm just so consumed with myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But again, we do want to promote the positive sides. Have
yeah,
self confidence. You can rely on yourself. All that is great. But don't overdo it and don't just see it for yourself with
yeah,
no regard of anybody else.
yeah. It was looking at them small ones. In one of the videos I was watching, it said, okay, so and it was relating to education. So it said this teacher may have perfect attendance, right? And so they're saying, oh yeah, well, this other teacher had perfect attendance, and I had it, same qualifications, but there were more storms when I earned perfect attendance. They didn't have to go through what I had to go through. And so in a sense, that's that adaptive narcissism right there. But it does get worse. So then looking at the maladaptive, which brings us to like the narcissistic personality disorder. So when we're talking about that, man, that is one that destroys the home, destroys the work, school. Have you had any personal experiences with that, whether in dating or friends, work? How does that work, and what did you do?
Yeah, I mean, I've had experiences with it. I mean, just in a lot of different areas of my life, friends for sure. Not really romantically. I mean, I think I was mentioning this before, like, we came live, that everybody has narcissistic tendencies, I
Yeah,
believe. So you could pick up on some things, but to be classified as a narcissist, no, I've never dated anyone who was a narcissist.
yeah,
But just with like friends who only speak about themselves,
mm-hmm.
are not concerned with you. You can
Yeah,
feel that,
yeah,
if you talk to someone. So the problem that I always run into is I'm a therapist, right? So I naturally listen. It's fine. I like to listen to people.
mm-hmm.
I mean, that's my preferred method of communication. I will listen to you,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also nice for me to be able to share too. So I'll notice that some friends will only be talking about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's time to talk about me, they're not really concerned. They don't care.
Yeah,
You can pick that up. So that's where I've had the most experiences. And I've had to cut people off. I want to be honest. I've had to say, you know what, I need to take a break because I feel like this relationship is one sided. I'm quick to do that. I don't have a
yeah,
problem doing that because I think there should be some reciprocity there that if you're talking, awesome. Even if I'm a natural listener, give me the time to share and show me you're concerned and really caring about what I say.
mm. And so when man, so then you think about somebody who's dating out here. Uh, how easy is it to have that conversation or to say, look, hold tight, let me speak without that other person being offended?
Yeah, it's not easy at all. It's like you you have to really steel yourself up because the main thing is that narcissists will prey on those who have big hearts.
Yeah.
If you show your emotions, if you're an empath, right, if you feel everyone's emotions, you'll be attracted to them because you can see that they're hurting, and they'll be attracted to you because they'll want to use you, right?
Mhm.
So you really have to steel yourself up and having that conversation like who's more important in this. There's a level of selfishness that has to be there. Am I okay with just being quiet and not getting what I need in this relationship,
Mhm.
constantly being disappointed, constantly having needs not met or fulfilled? Am I okay with that? If you're okay with that, cool, live like that. If not,
Mhm.
then there is going to have to be something that kind of wells up in you that
Yeah.
says I need to have this conversation no matter how awkward or uncomfortable because I matter
Mhm.
and what I need is important. And so when we start to see our own self-worth in that way, then it's like, okay, we need to have this conversation because my opinion and my feelings matter in this moment too.
And then, but the hard part is, like you say, letting it. How do you stop it before it wells up into this? blown up conversation? Like, do I have this early? Like once I recognize these tendencies?
I mean, and that's why podcasts like this are good, and
Mm-hmm.
like platforms like this are good, because some people don't even know that they're encountering a narcissist until they're too deep in, right? And so we have terms like a narcissist will love bomb you, like they'll do something bad and then they'll just throw so much love on you that you forget what they do.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know yourself. We have to know who we are, and we have to know our own worth. My mother instilled that in us. Woo woo! Know
Yeah,
your own worth,
yeah.
know who you are, so no one could take advantage of you in that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not everyone's story, and it's not an easy thing to do. And all the time, even though I know my worth, sometimes I could get myself in situations that I'm like, okay, I know I deserve better than this. When you know you deserve better, you do better. So when you can see the signs, I say all that to say, when you can see the signs and recognize the signs from the things we'll even share tonight, from the
Yeah.
things that are shared all over, because narcissism is a huge buzzword now.
Mm-hmm.
So all the information is out there. If we don't want it, we've made the choice not to be educated on it, right?
Yeah.
We've made the choice to stay in our own situation because it's too hard or too uncomfortable to come out of it. But what do we deserve? Are we putting ourselves like on the pedestal of needs? Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think when we expose ourselves to it, then it's like, okay, I can recognize this and I realize I don't want to be here anymore.
Mm. Man, the conversation is so awesome because I was going to keep this going, and my friend Brian was on Ready to Love, and so I'm going to be talking to him about this same thing. Man, I don't know what that conversation going to be like, but it's just so awesome that you kind of laying down that foundation of all the technicals, and that's what I want to accomplish, of just having people understand like those tendencies versus just throwing people off of the deep end and giving them a flat out disorder within the first few times, right? Because I think we have to understand and be accepting, but then still have that hard conversation that we got to have with each other.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're quick to diagnose someone. You're a narcissist.
yeah,
Wait a minute. Pump the
yeah,
brakes. Hold
yeah.
it. We're
Because
quick.
you just did. What was that? You know?
Right. Like, huh? You
Yeah,
know, when did you
yeah,
get your degree? You
yeah,
know, when did you go and really study about this? You
yeah.
know, some people you can identify easily, right? Because they fit, there's a criteria
Hmm.
that they fit into. But some people are just selfish or hurt or have been abandoned or not affirmed in their childhood. That doesn't mean they're a narcissist. They have narcissistic tendencies.
Yeah,
But we'll label somebody and slap that narcissist, you know, label on them
yeah.
real quick
Hmm.
without truly understanding.
And then looking at the causes, as I was looking at the Mayo Clinic, they said that they come from mostly three things: the environment, which is, oh my God,
Oh my
loving the
God.
way we were loved, genetics, and neurobiology. So look, I couldn't get too much further into that, so I'm gonna leave that up to you. What are you seeing as far as in just that profession as far as narcissism, environment, or is that us, or what are you telling?
I mean, it just seems like it's a combo of things because
Yeah,
now it sounds like they're saying that this is hereditary.
yeah,
Can narcissism be passed down? You know, if it's in the genetics, if it's in our neurobiology. So let's say someone has a dormant gene of narcissism, right? Let me get real technical. Let's say
mm,
someone has that. And then let's say someone's in an environment where they are not loved. So you wake up narcissism, right? Because now you're in
mm,
an environment where you're not loved, and then it changes the way that you process and think, because you're like, all right, well, I'm going to go get the love that I didn't get, but I'm going to take it all for myself. I'm not going to share it with my friends, my family, my significant other. So all those things come into play. It's passed down, but we wake it up in those certain situations where our
mm,
parents aren't affirming us, or we're not getting enough attention, or on the flip side, our parents aren't telling us no. Parents, knock knock, it's okay to tell your kids no.
yeah,
Tell them no, it's okay. You're training them for life. If we only give our kids everything they want, we're creating narcissists. Come on now. We're
mm-hmm,
creating narcissists. We're breeding them like in a petri dish, like in a science lab. We're creating them right in our home. So what can we do? We don't know who has the dormant narcissist gene. If they're saying it's in our genetics or if it's
mm-hmm.
in our neurobiology, we have no idea. But we have to do everything we can to make sure we're not waking that bad boy up. Because if we have a whole bunch of narcissists running around, we have a problem.
Yeah, man. And so I was thinking about something I did earlier a few seasons ago, and it was a lot with the emotional intelligence in young men, right?
Oh my.
And so you're thinking about how do you, man, that's so hard, especially for a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Finding that balance between showing emotion, telling the kid to it's okay to show emotion, keeping him hard, then trying to build him up without creating a narcissist like that. So I don't even know what's the first place, but I do say from being a school administrator, like I say, I see each piece, right? I see that student whose parent is really building them up.
Yeah.
And he comes in confidence, and sometimes it gets out of hand. I think about a few of my football players, right?
Oh,
They already got that mentality early. So
early.
early. So just thinking about that, but man, just thinking of the struggle through those pieces. Woo. So then we talk about relationships. We talk about women. Women will label us, but there are some women narcissists that man, they go hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think men have gotten bashed and crashed
Yeah.
over being the narcissist. Like they're the narcissist, but there's some female narcissists. Don't get it twisted, don't get it confused. There definitely are, and we see them. Um, I would say in those who just get with someone to take advantage of what they can give you, right?
Mm,
So we're looking at someone as our meal ticket or that materialistic thing they can provide for us, right? So all we are is with them because of what they give us and what we can gain from them. We don't care about their feelings, and we don't care about being with other people either. While we're with them, because it's only about us. It's only about our feelings. Um, and women are natural nurturers, but
mhm.
female narcissists really don't have that nurturing tendency.
Yeah.
It's all about you, and it is hard to really manage that when you have a parent who's a narcissist, right? So a
Mhm.
mom who's a narcissist, who only is concerned with themselves, who only focuses on their own emotions. My, it's very dangerous, and it's very concerning, because you end up not giving that love to your child
Yeah.
because you can only think about yourself. So there are ladies out there who are narcissists, and we see that in those different kind of tendencies.
Look, she saying some children talk about their narcissistic mothers. I'm telling you, look, I hear the stories, man.
Ooh,
I hear
wow.
them, but and so that brings us to just simply communicating with narcissists. And so it says to communicate, begin any discussion with the compliment, flattery, or praise in order to get their attention.
Yes.
To keep their attention, listen endlessly. This might be hard when narcissists repeat themselves, which they will hardly be aware of. Dang,
Right. Right.
dang.
So now it makes you analyze everything, and you're like, hold on a minute. Like, you start kind of thinking. I was talking to my sister, and she's like, this makes me like recognize, okay, wait, do I, whoa, am I a narcissist? Do I have some
Yeah.
narcissistic tendencies? And it does. Exactly, doing that. Like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, am I making space for other people to talk? Am I showing genuine care and concern for others, or am I only putting my own? It makes us check in with each other, and but it's funny because you have to speak the language of a narcissist to speak to a narcissist. So yeah, you gotta flatter them, and then you gotta kind of sneak it on them, and make sure that you're ready to kind of dip out before they recognize what's going
Yeah.
on, because you're attacking their character now.
Mm,
And so you about to get the name calling, you're about to get the emotional abuse, and maybe the physical abuse, because
yeah.
the only thing that matters is that they maintain that facade of like perfection, and I'm all that, and that over self-confidence.
Mhm. Yeah, man. Come look at Tim. Say, you here, man.
Yeah, my brother.
So
Listen, my
look,
people came through. Come on now.
so look, what man, I was just looking at that. She says try holding them accountable. I think that is something big, right? Because there is no accountable, or is it? From what I've seen, is they can turn it. They turn it real good on you. Is that true?
Woo. They're master manipulators.
Yeah,
Master. You be like, oh, I got them now. They can't get out of this.
yeah,
But before you know it, they wiggled out of this corner. and it always turns out to be the other person's fault. I mean, no matter what,
Yeah.
we could have a video of them shooting someone or doing something or stealing. They know how to talk themselves out of everything to make it seem like it's not them.
Yeah.
So you do have to hold them responsible, but in like a backhanded way, like a backdoor way. You
Yeah.
can't approach a narcissist straight on like you did this and you did that. They shut down. They'll berate you. They'll talk about you. You'll be the one ending up crying, and then we take the blame on ourselves. Like, oh no, you're right. I see what you mean. They have a great way of switching that narrative up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna talk to my therapist. I think I'm gonna just say that. I don't anything I say may be used against me, but I will talk to my therapist at our next session about tonight, just to clarify some things.
Yeah, make sure, make sure.
Man, I can dig it though, man. So I guess before we get ready to close this thing out tonight, man, if we got somebody going through something like this, how do they simply get that help, get what they need, to to get out of there safely, right? Without the berating or without the words, the violence.
I'm really big on support groups and just like our natural support systems. So it would be good to kind of join a group, or if you know other people who are dealing with this, for you guys to come together and talk and chat and really share your war stories, right? Because sometimes we'll think that we're the only ones going through it, although we know that's not true. Our minds will say, "Oh, don't tell anyone this because you'll be ashamed, or they'll judge you, or they'll see you in a different light." But when we expose it to the light, right? Because when things hide, they hide in the dark. They hide in that kind of back door, back alleyway. When we expose that thing to the light, we'll realize that so many more people are going through this,
Mm.
and we can gain support from their support and then offer our own support. Now, the biggest thing I would say is when we are cutting a narcissist off, we have identified it's a narcissist. We can pinpoint that we are being damaged emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually from this relationship. We have to make up in our minds that we are going to cut this person off. And I mean, we're not going back. We're not wishy-washy. We're not double-minded. We're not going back and forth. We are really making up in our mind that we are done because we are tired of the abuse, and being with a narcissist is very draining. Now, if it's a situation where you cannot get out of it, like a mother, like a father, like cousins or a sibling,
Ooh.
we have to establish firm boundaries where we are not going to let them push past those boundaries, where we put the boundary in place and it is not going to be moved. Or like those civil rights leaders who said, I shall not be moved.
Yeah.
You cannot be moved. If we bend that boundary a little bit, they'll crack it and break it. So when we make a decision, we have to be very firm and resolute in that way. We have to have boundaries in place, or they will run all over us and we'll be back in that same cycle. Boundaries are very important. So I would say support and boundaries are two very important things.
Most definitely. Well, that was it. I don't even if it was a microphone, I would have dropped it, but
Hey,
that's not. Hey, awesome words. Great way to close it out. Boundaries, man. That's so real, and I think that's what saves us in the long run. Once we learn how to create them, that's really that standoff. So contact information, because wait, before we go, you cannot get out of here without talking about the Freedom Cast.
oh, thank you. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
So, right, that's how we met in our Black podcasting group. Whoop whoop.
yeah. Hey,
So, right, I started the Freedom Cast in April, and we talk about these taboo, controversial topics that we don't talk about, not just in the Black community, but in general. So we're talking about mental health and domestic violence, and things like that. I'm sharing my clinical perspective. I'm hearing guests who have personal, their own personal viewpoints. So I record that live 2 times a month, on Thursdays, and that could be found on Lilac Calandra on Facebook, Lilac Calandra on YouTube. I do that live. We share, we laugh, we talk, we cry, and we get delivered. The goal is to get freedom, and the goal is to be free, get free, and remain free. So that's what we do. Only way you can get free is by talking about these things that we've hidden under the rugs for so long. So
yeah,
thank you for allowing me to speak about that. But yeah, that's
yeah.
that's the move. Just to talk about the things we don't usually.
Yeah. And so now I got the the social media scrolling, but please give us, how do we find you one more time?
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube at Lilac Calandra or Facebook at Lilac Calandra. And I was just mentioning too that I'm starting a mindfulness business. The Sailor Mindset Counseling Collective, that's what it's called. So I offer mindfulness opportunities for those who might not be familiar with it. Sometimes we see like a guru sitting on a mountain with a monk's coat, and that's what we think about mindfulness. It's so much more than that. And it really helps us to function and flow in life. I incorporate God in it, my faith, attach it to scripture and our meditation and what we've been instructed to do. So people can reach me there as well. I can drop that email. I can drop that email in the actual live, just so if anyone wants to contact me there. I'm taking clients. I'm open and available to talk to you so we can assess what you need. The goal is to get free. And I love being here. I'm so honored that I was asked to come on. This was awesome.
Man, that's it. And so I'll drop the email, especially
Please.
on the YouTube. But man, thank you so much for taking some time out and just dropping some knowledge on us. Like I say, I wanted to kick this off, and we got to talk about it clinically. We got to talk about it from the male side, from the female side. Even I'm looking for somebody who is going to just admit, so we can have that conversation as well.
Hello.
But I think tonight was a great springboard. So thank you for taking that time out.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. This was great. Just so we can talk and chat about this. And I hope you do find someone who's a narcissist. I know I'm going to be tuning in as you cover this topic and, chiming in, and it's a huge topic. So it's awesome.
All right, y'all. This is KT for KTTV signing out. 100.
This is Darnell with Broadcast Houston.
This is Dr. Tamara Beckford.
Hey, this is Candace.
This is London Underwood. This is Kirsten Bass with Inner City Greens, and you're watching.
Y'all are now tuned in to
KTTV.
KTTV.
KTTV.